Happy Sunday evening to you. So, I was listening to a really cool podcast today. The guest was Charlie Morley, and he has been researching and writing and speaking on sleep and the psychology around therapy associated with dreams. And it's really fascinating. So, it got me to exploring a little bit into this topic. And I've brought up the concept of the importance of sleep and this idea of sleep hygiene before, where we're doing our best to create space and a way of preparing our minds and our bodies for restful sleep. And I'll review 5 things at the end of this to remind you what maybe we can go ahead and make sure we're keeping on top of for sleep hygiene. But here's the really cool thing that I wasn't really fully aware of. Yes, I understand that sleep is imperative for humans, and we know that lack of sleep contributes to to disease development. It can weaken your immune system. It absolutely can contribute to shortening your life, quite truthfully. So shortness on sleep, shortness on life, and vice versa. So it's valuable to make sure that, yes, that we're getting quality of sleep for our overall physical and mental well-being. We also know, right, that the value of sleep, in addition to giving us our physical rest and restoring our body and our muscles and our joints, bringing our cardiovascular system into better balance, there's some other really cool things. We know that, for example, it helps us hold on to memories and learn facts. It helps us to emotionally regulate by balancing our hormones. So here's the thing that I was listening to today with Charlie Morley, and I found as I did a little bit more research, 2 additional excellent resources for you, by the way, is the Australian Sleep Health Foundation. Heaps of resources there and links to other articles, etc. And also in the US, the Greater Good Science Center out of University of California, Berkeley. I've been absolutely aware of them for quite some time, and a lot of published science comes out of there as well, some terrific speaking events and books. So what I wanted to bring up today is the power of utilizing prepping for sleep using your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest system, to balance the sympathetic nervous system. So that's number 1 thing that we want to talk about. And also wanted to share that they are now finding through neuroscience and functional MRI work that dreams actually serve a purpose of helping us to heal. This is quite cool. They have found that the stress chemical noradrenaline, when we are in REM sleep, is at its lowest level. So as we are having dreams, and there may be emotions that come with it, we are absolutely able to process them in a more creative way, a less emotional way, because our body is not responding to it. Our brain isn't responding to it in as emotional way as it would when we were awake or even in deep sleep. I think that's fascinating. So one of the things I'll read this to you. REM sleep is the only time when our brain is completely devoid of the anxiety triggering molecule noradrenaline. At the same time, key emotional and memory related structures of the brain are reactivated during REM sleep as we dream. This means that emotional memory reactivation is occurring in a brain free of a key stress chemical, which allows us to reprocess upsetting memories in a safer, calmer environment. So this is very important because there's been a lot of, for decades, there's been a lot of debate about whether dreams served a purpose in our bodies and brains. And funny thing, evolutionarily, they do. They absolutely help us to heal emotional distressing experiences. They help us to bring cohesivity to our learnings, and also this is where creative links are made, which can happen in deep sleep as well. So we're less reactive. We move from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, where all this amazing information is stored and processed. And when we wake up, what's really fascinating is that if you take time to think about what you dreamt about, and maybe even just to write a few things down, you may catch some really interesting information that your brain came up with while you were sleeping. So it is said that time heals all wounds, But according to Matthew Walker, who is one of the researchers at UC Berkeley, his research suggests that time spent in dream sleep is what heals. Pretty cool. So I mentioned a couple things about how we can contribute to better sleep and maybe even more time in deep sleep and REM. So you can fortify your parasympathetic nervous system response going to sleep to help balance and diminish your sympathetic nervous response. This helps us to not only go to sleep a little more easily, but it helps us to stay in sleep a little bit more effectively. Throughout the course of your day, this is one of the things that you can start to add into your regimen. 20 to 30 minutes of purposeful mindful movement, yoga, qigong, walking, running, something creative. We want to bring in meditation, things that diminish stress and practice regulating your breathing. 20 to 30 minutes a day gets you into the practice of bringing parasympathetic nervous response a little bit more effectively online, so that as you settle in, you actually can get to sleep faster, and you have been practicing how to tap into that breath regulation, and your body understands how to get into that nervous system better in balance with the sympathetic agitation. So practice your parasympathetic nervous system balance throughout the day, so that when time comes for you to lay down, you're better able to ease into sleep because you've been practicing and your parasympathetic system has been primed. 5 other things to help with your sleep hygiene. So let's do a really quick review. Number 1 thing is to make sure that, as best as possible, make sure your room is dark. Diminish lights within 60 to 90 minutes of trying to go to sleep. Try to decrease the amount of blue light, computers, phones, tablets around your eyes, decrease the amount of contact with TV. So really give yourself and your melatonin levels an opportunity to rise, but make your room as dark as it can be, or wear an eye mask if need be, right? If you work overnight. The second thing is to make sure you go to bed and wake up at approximately the same time every day. Now, if you were somebody who worked overnights like I did, you do the best that you can. But what if you're going back and forth? Some people really find that keeping a regimen where they're sleeping and waking roughly the same time and then adjusting it a few hours at a time when they're off works for them. But if you are a day worker, it may be easier for you to go ahead and make sure you're keeping it pretty close to waking and sleeping and waking up at the same time. So make sure that you get roughly the same number of hours. That includes the weekends. The other is keeping your temperature in your home cool, even as low as 65 degrees. Our body temperatures need to come down for us to stay effectively asleep. So be thinking about the temperature in your bedroom, particularly, maybe a fan even for white noise. If you find that you're having difficulty falling asleep, be all right with getting up. Maybe go read under some dim, more gold-colored lights. Do something other than staying in bed and agitating, getting judgmental or anxiety-ridden about the fact that you can't fall asleep. It activates your sympathetic nervous system. So instead, say, right, I'm not ready to sleep yet, and get up. So 10 to 15 minutes of not being able to fall asleep, it's okay. Get up, do something else, and then come back when you feel like you might be ready to try again. Yeah? And the other is about physically making certain that we are not consuming caffeine or alcohol-infused drinks really within 90 minutes to 2 hours before bedtime, because as you can imagine, that can disrupt your sleep cycles, and it absolutely disrupts your deep sleep and your REM. So just some things that you can think about for you to take on for your sleep hygiene. Check out those resources as I mentioned. Those were the Australian Sleep Foundation, and there was the UC Berkeley, the Greater Good Science Foundation. So cool. And Charlie Morley, great author. With that, go get your sleep on. Dream. Heal. Emotionally process. And know that you are doing amazing things for your body, for your brain and for your longevity, physically and mentally. Cool. Go give it a go. With that, be well. Bye now.